Welcome back to the GCSE Maths Pro YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at surd rules, and in particular multiplying and dividing surds. So we've already looked at simplifying surds and adding and subtracting surds. Go check out those videos if you haven't already, in particular how to simplify surds, because we will be needing that in today's video. Our first question is really straightforward, just to see exactly how we multiply surds. We've got root 6 times root 10. I always try and link surds back to algebra because most of us know and are quite happy with how algebra works. Well, we just literally combine them, don't we? That's fine. It doesn't matter if they're two different letters. It doesn't matter if they're the same letter. We just combine them, okay? So in this case, what we have with surd rules is if you're multiplying any two surds, you can just write it as one single square root symbol and literally multiply the two numbers together, okay? So in this case, root 6 times root 10 is going to give us root 60. It's literally as straightforward as that. They don't have to be the same surd. They can be any two surds, even maybe three surds you've got to multiply together. Same with dividing, just put them under the same square root symbol and either multiply or divide the two numbers. Now, the only thing though is we've got root 60. However, same as if you think about fractions. You might have a fractions question where you've added them or multiplied them, but you always have to double check at the end, have I given my answer in the simplest form? So while we've already multiplied them, that's already done, we are going to double check, can we simplify this surd just to give our answer in a slightly more simplified format? So root 60, what square number factor would go into root 60? Well, actually 4 goes in and we have to multiply that by 15. So, just as we did in our first video for simplifying surds, the square root of 4 is 2, and we've got left with root 15. Double check, can we simplify root 15 any further? No, there aren't any square number factors that go into 15, are there? So that, even though it does seem fairly large as a surd, that's absolutely fine. That is the most simplified version. So your answer to this question is 2 root 15. Okay, so we've got two parts to it. We've got, okay, actually start by multiplying, but then double check if you can simplify. Okay, our next question, we've got root 15 times root 3. So as I said before, you just multiply both those numbers in the same square root. So 15 times 3 is 45. That is the multiplication done, but can we simplify this surd? Well, we know that 9 goes into 45 and it goes in 5 times. So square root 9 is 3, and obviously we're left with root 5 as our final answer. So it's literally as straightforward as that. Now, the bit that's a little bit trickier that I'm going to show you is what do we do if we have whole numbers in front of the surds as well? This is where it can get a little bit complicated, but once you know what to do, then it's really straightforward. Again, I'm going to liken it to algebra. Let's say you had 7x multiplied by 3y, and I've used two different letters because obviously they are different surds in this example. Well, the 7 and the 3 are just both numbers, aren't they? They're both whole numbers, so you can just multiply those together to get 21, and the x and the y you would technically just stick together, wouldn't you, because that's algebra. But you kind of deal with them separately, don't you? We deal with the 7 and the 3 together, and then the x and the y together. That's what I'm trying to demonstrate here. So what we're going to do is say, right, the 7 and the 3 are both whole numbers on the outside of the surds. They're not surds themselves, they're just whole numbers. So I can multiply the 7 and the 3. And then I'm going to deal with the surds separately, okay? As we said before, the way that we're going to multiply surds is put them under the same square root and literally just multiply them. So I've got 21 at the front and then root 88. Okay, so deal with your whole numbers that are on the outside of the surds. Again, just multiply them as normal, but deal with them separately to the numbers on the inside. And our last bit, we've done the multiplication now, but we do want to check, can we simplify this surd? What square number factor do we have for 88? Okay, it seems like it would be quite a large one, but actually the biggest one is 4. Okay, 4 times 22 gives us 88. So just go through your simplifying process as normal. Square root the 4 to get 2, and then your answer is 21 times 2, which is 42, and root 22. Let me just write that over here. This is our final answer. Again, the root 22 does look quite large. You kind of feel like you should be able to simplify it further, but just double check in your head, are there any square numbers that go into 22? Well, no, in which case that is the most simplified we can get. All right, try this one for yourself, pause the video, and then once you've got your answer, check if it's the same as what we go through. So, like I said before, we're going to deal with the whole numbers on the outside separately to the surds on the inside. So we're going to multiply 2 times 6, which is obviously 12, and then under the same square root we're going to multiply 70 times 2, which is root 140. So that's your multiplication, and the last bit is to just simplify. Can I simplify 140? Yes, again, actually the biggest square number factor is 4. 4 times 35 would give you 140. Square root the 4 to get 2. And I'm going to write the final answer over here. 2 times 12 is 24. And we're left with root 35. Again, we cannot simplify root 35 any further, so that is just your final answer. Alright, pause the video, try this one out, see what you get for your answer, and then we'll go through it together. This question, it's a little bit of a trick question. You can do the same method. However, it's just to see if we're paying attention. Because can you see that they're both root 3? Obviously, if you multiply root 3 by root 3, right, we know we're obviously going to get root 9. However, because I've multiplied two numbers together, that's just squaring them, isn't it? So obviously, the answer is going to be a square number, which we can square root. Okay, so a lot of the time, again, I think when we're working with surds, we get so focused on all the details that we kind of don't see the big picture of sometimes you're just multiplying together two of the same number, and therefore it will just square root and cancel out. But if you can identify it immediately and go, oh, that's going to cancel out to be 3, then all you need to do is 4 times 10 is 40, and then the other bit is 3, which gives us 120. However, it's absolutely fine to go through the same process. 4 times 10 is 40, and in the same square root, 3 times 3 is 9, and then you realise, oh, actually I can square root that, and we get to the same answer. Okay, this is quite a similar question. Now, obviously, they're not the same surd. However, you've got two options. You can simplify the root 8 now if you like, and then multiply them. However, I'm just going to multiply them directly and then simplify at the end. Doesn't really matter, it's up to you. So I'm going to multiply 5 and 4 to get 20 because they're both whole numbers, and then multiply the 2 and the 8 in the square root symbol, which gives me 20 root 16. Now, the reason why this is similar to the previous question is because do you see how we've ended up with root 16, which 16 is a square number. So we can just square root it to get to 4. 20 times 4 is 80. Okay, exactly the same questions again. We've just written it in a format that you might see in an exam. So express root 6 times root 12 in the form a root 2, where a is an integer. Very similar to what we saw in adding and subtracting surds. It just means multiply the two surds together, and then hopefully you will simplify it where you've got 2 as your remainder surd, okay? So, like we know, we can just multiply two surds together in the same square root symbol. So 6 times 12 is 72, and then it's hinting at the fact that we can simplify 72, and that one of the factors is 2. So what square number do we multiply 2 by to get to 72? That's going to be 36. So it's kind of given us a bit of a shortcut. We don't really have to go through all of the factors and try and figure it out. It just says, right, something times 2, that will be a square number. Okay, so square root the 36, which is 6, root 2, and that is your final answer. Again, where 6 is the a, integer, the whole number. Integer just means a whole number. That's all it means, nothing more specific than that. Okay, so we spent most of this video on multiplying because that's probably the most common thing you're going to see. However, we've got a couple of questions to finish on for dividing. It does work in the same way, it's the same rule, okay? So if you are dividing two surds, it doesn't matter if they're not the same surd, you can just put one square root symbol. Either I would tend to write it's a fraction, but if you want, obviously, you can write it with the divide symbol. 150 divided by 3 is the same thing. Either way, the point is that they will be divided in the same square root symbol. So 150 divided by 3 leaves me with root 50. Now you just check, can I simplify root 50? Well, we know that 25 goes into it twice, and so your answer is 5 root 2. So it's exactly the same as multiplying. The only difference is now we are literally dividing rather than multiplying. Have a go at this question yourself. Think about how do we multiply two surds where there were whole numbers on the outside, and do the exact same thing but with dividing instead. As we said before, we've got whole numbers on the outside and then two surds. We have to deal with them separately. So in this case, because it's divide, I'm going to do 12 divided by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Those are both just the whole numbers on the outside. And then within my square root symbol, I'm going to do 10 divided by 5, which gives me 4 root 2. Now in this case, and probably in a fair few cases with dividing, you're probably going to end up with a surd that is so small that you can't simplify it further. So in this case, there is no simplifying to be done. That is just as far as we can go. So your final answer is 4 root 2. Again, pause the video, try this one yourself, and then check your answers when we go through it together. We've got 9 root 30 divided by 3 root 6. 9 and 3 are your whole numbers, and obviously 30 and 6 are within the surds. We're going to do 9 divided by 3 first on the outside, which is just 3, and then within our square root symbol, 30 divided by 6, which leaves us with 3 root 5. That is your final answer. Okay, so that is everything you need to know about multiplying and dividing surds. The next video you need to watch is expanding brackets. This one is obviously multiplying surds, but also adding surds and simplifying surds. So make sure you've seen all of the other videos previously before you move on to the last part of the surd rules. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, comment down below if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next video.